Have you ever said a clean, simple no? Then when the person reacted, you felt guilty about it? What if your no was never the problem? What if the problem was their expectation that you would say yes? What does it mean to live peacefully inside someone's wrong story about you without shrinking? Hey, it's your girl, Dr. Nina, and welcome to the Love Yourself Loudly podcast. I wore my leopard print shirt because we're going to talk about something a little spicy today, which is setting boundaries. It's such an important topic. And especially for women and for those of us who are marginalized, our no is not maybe honored on the same wavelength. And so it does take some conditioning and practicing. And today we're going to talk about why loving ourselves means being able to say no without explanation, and how that can help to cultivate our self-worth, our self-trust, and decrease our level of self-abandonment. This is a gentle topic, and we're going to get into why during this episode today. So as I was preparing to record this episode, every single week, I always prep myself with some amazing music. Such a big music fan, and I have a huge playlist of like different genres of music, different decades of music. I'm a super big music fan. And of course, I have a little one now. I can't get out to concerts all the time, but going to concerts is one of my most favorite things to do with my friends. I, this morning, was listening to Pump the Jam by Technotronic, I think the name is. And mind you, I was 4 when this song came out, but I know this song front to back. I feel like if anything has a good beat, I'm into it. So I was like, get my groove on, pump the jam, pump it up. I mean, if you know the song, you're probably singing with me. And if you don't know the song, look it up. It's so funny because if we think about maybe our parents' generation or our grandparents, they're always saying something like, oh, they don't make good music like this anymore, or music isn't as great. And during my generation of music, I was like, what are you talking about? Our music is amazing. And now I kind of understand the sentiment as I'm growing older and maybe wiser or not wiser. Now I understand the sentiment because when you grow up, you listen to music, your memories are wrapped in the different types of songs that you used to listen to. So growing up, my parents did a really good job of making sure that we were celebrating through our life and through our childhood. So we had these amazing dance parties in our basement, and it was fun. It would usually be on a Friday night that we would watch some kind of like Nickelodeon show. I think they had a Friday, I don't remember what it was called. Yeah, it was called TGIF. So if you're a millennial like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we'd watch TGIF. We would probably get pizza or something like that. And also put in the comments, what kind of pizza did you like? I feel like it was always like a Domino's versus Pizza Hut, especially in my neighborhood growing up. I don't know if I had a preference. I think that they were both really good. But if you did have a preference, let me know and why. But yeah, we would have pizza. And then later we would go down to our basement, and my parents had gotten some club lights to put in there, and we would just dance. And we would have the best time. And we would celebrate, and the beats were always good. And I think about even my time in my 20s or even in college, I never felt any shame about dancing. I would dance everywhere I went. And even now it's the same thing. However, I know now for folks who have grown up in the age of social media, the insecurities, I guess, have changed around that. I saw that people are just not dancing anymore. They're going to bars, but they're not going to clubs. I was like, man, that sucks, because dancing, going to the clubs, being free, that is such a big part of me growing up and being able to celebrate music and feeling the beat. And now we see so much research about how dance is so important for our nervous systems, to ground our nervous systems and help us to come back to ourselves. And so I just feel really grateful for that time. So yes, of course, to get into my body and to get settled and like feel excited to film these episodes, I listened to some good beats. So that was the song that I listened to today. So there's a little background on my own life. So put in the comments too if you grew up dancing or not, because I think maybe it isn't just a generational thing. Even if you are a millennial, maybe you came from a background where your parents didn't really dance, or they only played particular music in the house that you couldn't really dance to, or maybe your parents felt insecure about dancing, so then you might have carried that on. Or opposite, it could be that no one danced growing up, but then now you're a huge dancer. So I'm always curious of people's stories, and I'm a huge believer in that there's really no black and white. So I don't think that way at all. So sometimes we are the way we are for just a variety of reasons. And it's all helpful to know about so that you don't feel alone. So yeah, we're talking about boundaries. I thought a good way to start this episode is to talk about an experience where I said no to someone and they didn't like it so much. So if you are a parent and especially a mother, you might be able to relate to this. And even if you just work really hard and you feel burnt out with work and you get a break, and then you're finally like, yes, I have some solitude. I can really decompress. That is what happened for me. Basically, I had scheduled a babysitter. I was so excited to do my own thing, and I wanted to spend the time alone. I didn't want to spend it with anyone else. And once a quarter, I would say, I write a manifestation list and get really excited about the next couple months to come and kind of redirect myself in terms of what I want to focus on, what I want to not focus on. And so it's a time where I can completely attune to myself without having to think about anyone else's needs, which is just so important and so needed for me. Even I can think back to times where I was on my predoctoral internship, postdoc, times where you're really overworked and you're completely burned out. I looked forward to having that solitude, that time to myself where I wasn't thinking about clients, thinking about my job or how to contribute. I could just think about contributing to myself. And so this was my moment. Babysitter was covered. I had time to kind of go off and do my own thing. And so I was in sort of like a common space of my building. And you probably can tell this from the episodes, but I'm a gregarious person. So I say hi to people on the elevator. I'm really friendly when I'm over at the gym. I'm a community-oriented person. So if I'm seeing familiar faces every time I go here or there, I'm going to say hello and I'm going to introduce myself. And so there was a man who I had seen a couple of times before, maybe met a total of 2 times. And I was sitting down and mind you, like this common space, there are multiple TVs in different rooms. And I was occupying a couch and I was like laid out. I was so happy to be there. My journal was open. I was writing in my notes and my headphones were on. So I was clearly busy. I was in front of a couch set up with one TV. So I'm sitting there minding my business, loving my life. It had been maybe like 15 minutes since I left my kid with the babysitter. And I was just sort of starting to come down and grounding myself and everything. And this man who I had met just a few times came up to me. And so I saw that he was looking at me and he was standing right there. So I took one headphone out and I just said hello. It was very kind. And he said, "Hey, do you mind if I turn on the TV and sit down?" So I said no. I didn't need to explain anything. I didn't really know this person. And again, there are multiple TVs in this space. So why do I need to say yes when I really was looking forward to this time spent by myself? I said no, period. I did not explain myself. I did not apologize for saying no. I didn't go on and on about, you seem like a nice person. I would generally engage, but I didn't go into any of that. I just said no. He walked away, kind of like huffed and puffed, but I really wasn't worried about it. I don't know what happened after. I just put my headphone back in. I think I was listening to binaural beats to do some journaling. Check out binaural beats if you love to journal. In my opinion, it helps to get the thoughts out. So I go about my business and I run into this guy at the gym a couple of times. I run into him in the lobby a few times. Every time he's scowling at me, will not look me in the eye, avoiding me, giving me the look that he was obviously upset about our encounter. So I took a deep breath. My first inclination, because there's an inner child inside of me who wants to smooth everything over and in everyone's minds, be the good girl that everyone likes, the likable girl that's just agreeable to everything. That little girl inside of me, which I have lots of compassion for, came out. And in my mind, she's saying, go explain that you got a babysitter. That was your only alone time in so many weeks. And hopefully he will forgive you for saying no. That was my first inclination. Then I took a breath and I thought, okay, whose story is that? Whose feelings am I responsible for? And whose feelings am I not responsible for? Am I responsible for basically strangers' feelings? No. And so with that, I agreed that this is going to be very uncomfortable, but every time I pass him, I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to look over to him and see if he'll smile at me or go over, tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, can we talk? This is not a friend. This is barely an acquaintance. And it was clear that I was the villain in his story. And who knows what that story is because I don't know his background. Because I'm a compassionate person, I could think through, okay, what is he upset about? Where might that come from in his own history? No, I stopped it right there. I wasn't even going to go into it. That's for him to work out. That's not my responsibility. So since we talk about shadow in these episodes, I want to just give a warm invitation. Where did your body go as I'm sharing this story? Maybe a part of you was pulled to say, well, Dr. Nina might be in the wrong here. She just said no. She didn't explain or she didn't apologize. It didn't sound very nice how she said it. Just be kind to yourself. Be gentle. That comes from a sensitive place, and we want to honor that. Again, we're noticing. We're not judging those feelings. We're simply bringing them to the surface, and we're acknowledging them. So I want to name the conditioning here because women and individuals from marginalized communities, we might be more apt to be trained to apologize first, over-explain, share so many words. Maybe it's like 7 sentences before you even say no. And with the pray and hope that the person will not be upset by what you're sharing. And this comes from conditioning from society, conditioning from our own family, maybe even within your family system. This might be an expectation that you've held on to. So this comes from a very sensitive and gentle place. And what we also have to consider is someone's entitlement when they're coming to us already expecting a yes, which is exactly what the example was that I just gave, which is this man assumed that I was available to entertain him, keep his company, have him put the TV on and watch whatever he wanted to watch, and me just sit there and allow that. That was the expectation because of his privilege. Now, you don't owe an explanation for your no, even though your body and your mind might pull yourself to want to explain yourself. No is a complete sentence on its own. And the guilt that you might feel for not explaining yourself is a social contract that you never sign. So have compassion for yourself, honor where it may come from in your own history, and know that every time you say no, it is going to feel uncomfortable because you're not over explaining yourself maybe the way that you might have when you were younger. And with time, and again, I'm always talking about neuroplasticity, that guilt becomes a little less guilt and a little less guilt. But every time you do say no, it is going to feel uncomfortable. And especially when the person on the other side of the no is not understanding you, is not seeing you. And then you have to reassess whether you want people in your life who can see you. Now, in my situation that I gave you, this is someone that I was not even friends with. So I didn't have to really think through, oh, what is this person's role in my life now that I know that they are not respecting my boundaries? So write in the comments if you have examples of this or ways that you deal with saying no, especially if someone is not understanding or compassionate towards you. Again, since episode 1, we're talking a lot about discernment. Where do I spend my energy? Where do I not spend my energy? Where do I put my time? Where do I not put my time? Now, protecting your alone time is not selfish. It's not unkind. It's the most loving thing that you can do for yourself. Really, period. You need alone time. You need rest time. And that's exactly what happened for me. I was sitting alone, peaceful. And I deserve that time. I deserve that space. When women or those of us who have identities that are marginalized sit in a room, it is assumed that our stillness, our peacefulness is a public resource. If a man were to sit down, their alone time would be respected without them even saying, because of their privilege, because of societal oppression, etc. Like we can go on and on. Real rest is not a luxury. It's a necessity in order for us to nourish ourselves and to have the energy to nourish the relationships in our lives that truly matter. So if I can't fill my cup, how can I be there for all the important people in my life, whether it's the people that I work with, my personal relationships, being a parent where I put a lot of my energy? I can't do that if I don't have the time to fully rest and not do anything, stare at the wall, journal, like do all the things that you want to do in your alone time, dance, whatever it is. We deserve that time as humans, and we don't owe anyone our time. I don't care if it's a stranger or if it's someone that you spend time with every day. You deserve to take time away to take care of yourself. That is loving yourself. Saying no is an act of self-love. And we teach other people how to respect us, which is an important part of relationship dynamics. We're trusting ourselves that I'm a good person no matter what, right? Because I'm talking about like the guilt and the shame spiral. I did something bad, which is the guilt. I am bad is the shame. That, of course, is going to happen. You're going to feel those things when you say no. Once you honor those feelings, once you have more compassion for yourself, you start to understand that you deserve that time. And some people are going to respect it. Some people are not. You can respect their alone time. You can respect theirs too, because it's an exchange, right? The respect goes both ways. So we're teaching people how to treat us. And also we're going to treat others with that same amount of respect as well. Now, setting a boundary is one thing. The other piece that's really important is that if the person reacts to you setting the boundary or saying no, then yeah, sometimes you do become the villain in someone else's story. You become the bad guy. And the real work for you in that situation is not to go and try and defend yourself, because then you give them round two for them to continue to put you in that place. You also teach them that if they give a big enough reaction to your no, then you're going to come back and try to explain yourself and give them more of that dynamic that fuels them. For any of you that are thinking to yourselves, well, Dr. Nina, if I don't say anything, then that's worse because then they don't know what they did wrong or they don't know that I'm not the villain. You're not responsible for how they feel about you, how they're judging you in their mind. That's their own story. You're not responsible for that story. And continuing to engage with someone like that is just going to stir up more and more of the dynamic that they enjoy. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all. You do not need to feel understood to be okay. You can be misread, misunderstood, unfairly characterized, exist in someone's negative story about you, and still know the truth of who you are. And that's not indifference. It's self-trust. And if you have a history of accommodating others, over-explaining yourself, that's where you validate your feelings. It's not going to be easy to do something different. Actually, you're probably going to feel miserable and terrible when you say no. So it really sucks to do this practice because you're not going to get the most beautiful payoff from it right away. However, the payoff is eventually it's going to start to feel peaceful. It's going to start to feel like I can be in my energy longer without feeling like I need to fix it, to change it. And reminding yourself that you will eventually feel that one day will help continue to motivate you when you do feel icky or bad, shameful, when you don't accommodate other people's feelings, when you do stand up for yourself and say, this is my time. This is my space. This is my peace, and I deserve it. I remember a couple of years ago, there was, at least in the media, a lot of talk about a personality of being unbothered. And I just love that. I've really adopted that way of being unbothered. That doesn't mean you don't care. That doesn't mean you go about your life just not being compassionate to other people. You can be a compassionate, loving, empathic person and be unbothered when it counts. Unbothered, especially when you are not responsible for someone's feelings, how they react to you. That is the vibe. So unbothered is the vibe. It is the vibe of self-love. It is the vibe of self-acceptance, loving yourself, knowing inside you are a good person, keeping people around you who can reflect that back to you. When you are wrong, apologize. When you know you've done something to hurt someone, acknowledge it. You don't have to take on other people's emotions that have nothing to do with you. And the practice starts small. Maybe you start by saying no with someone who you're not as close with. Then you start saying no when someone asks you to do a work project and it's after 5 o'clock and you're ready to sign out. And you say, you know what? No. Then you say no to someone close to you that maybe it's hard to just say no, period, without explaining yourself. Try it step by step. Each gentle step matters. Each step gets you to a place where you're closer and closer to the most love that you can ever have for yourself, which is the most important gift. It's the most important gift you can ever give yourself is your time, your space, your energy, your peace, and truly protecting it for yourself and the people around you who truly matter. You don't owe a stranger your explanation. You don't owe anyone your solitude. And you don't owe anyone a revision of yourself just because they decided to be upset about it. Loving yourself loudly, sometimes it's just a no without having to explain or apologize. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, okay, their discomfort is not your emergency. Is there a no you've been softening that you didn't need to apologize for? Is someone's reaction to your boundary making you question whether the boundary was okay? What do you know to be true separate from their reaction? What would a clean, cushion-free no look like for you this week? I'm Dr. Nina. This is Love Yourself Loudly, and I'll see you on the next episode. Okay, real quick. Thank you for listening to this episode. This is for entertainment purposes only, and it's not therapy or medical advice. If you're having a hard time, please reach out to a licensed professional. If this episode hit home, please share it with someone who might enjoy it. You already know who it is. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast form, please rate and review. It helps this podcast reach the people who need it most. And before I let you go, one more thing. I have a free virtual workshop. It's called The Daily Gaze, and the link is right inside the description. So go ahead and click on it and enjoy it. I hope it's powerful and it shapes the way that you form an embodied relationship with yourself. Now, the most important thing is to come find me on social. You can find me at Dr. Nina Polyné or Love Yourself Loudly podcast. Until next time, love yourself loudly. I'm Dr. Nina, and I'm not sorry about it.